Welcome back to Against My Better Judgment, the podcast where two friends,
I'm Tamara Golden.
and I'm Danielle Whiteside, tell the truth, share the lessons, and laugh about the moments that we knew better but did it anyway. Each week, we share real stories about our lives, about the times that life surprised us, stretched us, or just straight up humbled us, and the lessons that we learned along the way.
And this season is How I Learned, how we learned to navigate personal issues and how to navigate the workplace.
Yep, and today we're going to talk about how we learned boundaries.
Yeah. Womp, 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 womp.
Yeah. But before we do that, let's jump into how are you this week?
Pretty good week, busy week. I was excited this week because, you know, as most folks know, this July I started my own mediation company, Alliance Mediation LLC. Mm-hmm. And this is the first week where someone, an attorney used me that I did not know about 3 weeks ago. And I got that email for him to use me again. So it's one of those things where the biggest compliment I think you can get as a mediator is for someone to refer you to someone else, but then to use you again. So it was actually an exciting week in that regard.
That's so cool.
So,
yeah.
What about you?
We've had a lot of family time. Lots of family time.
What does that mean?
It means we've been together a lot.
Okay, welcome.
The kids are out of school. You know,
Okay.
It's holiday break. We're
How
all
long
together.
is break?
Like 2 weeks, two solid weeks.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, like these boys, you have to get them out the house. My mom always says you have to get them before they get you.
Yep.
So like, you know, you have to be really intentional about planning activities. And I'm just trying to, I need some time to do my work too, like my school work, because I'm off of work for 2 weeks because the university is closed for the holiday. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to find time to like actually do my schoolwork too. My husband is at home working from home. Mm-hmm. So I also have to help him so the kids are not distracting him. Like we just spending a lot of time together.
Auntie Tammy may have to come over there.
It's for real. I actually thought about that on my way over here. I was like, I'm gonna see if she can.
It might be time. You know, a gift that I give some of my friends is around the holidays, I do give them a day to go Christmas shopping. Ooh. And so I'll usually just whatever day we decide on, I'll come over and I'll hang out with the kids.
That's a real gift.
That's because I tend to always get gifts for the kids, but I don't like give a physical gift to the parents. But you know, you can get me for a day so that you can breathe and Christmas shop. It, you know, just a day that kind of works with my schedule. So we can work that out.
Thank you.
We can work that out.
Okay, so walk us through it. When did you first realize you needed boundaries, and how'd you learn them?
Well, first off, I've never had a good balance with boundaries. I've always been at some extreme where I had no boundaries or I was way too rigid with boundaries. So boundaries has never been something that I've been really, really good at. Mm-hmm. Just because of the way I'm wired. And I'm wired to serve people. I'm wired to give. I am wired to have peace. So those are just some of the things that kind of affects people who, you know, it can definitely muddle or make boundaries somewhat muddled, I'd say. So it's never been something that I've really, really good at. And even I guess it's the Capricorn in me. When I'm in, I am all in. Like if there's nothing that we can't work through, there's nothing that I won't do. So when I'm in, I'm all in. So you can imagine boundaries in an unsafe environment, albeit the workplace or even a relationship that's not healthy, can just be problematic, can be just naturally problematic for me. So when I think about boundaries, I think about it in the professional life and then the personal life. And like in the professional life, I think about just in the workplace, just the rigidity of, there was this big push or this big term that we heard a lot in 2020 and 2021, and that was, you may know it, bring your whole self to work. Like, we heard that, we were just inundated with that idea. And I was always one of those people like, what does that even mean?
That sounds like a trap.
When we say bring your whole self to work. So I'd always had work boundaries in that I have a personality where it's, especially when I'm on. When I'm on, I'm on. And I have a personality where I can talk to anyone. If you can't carry a conversation with me, then you just probably have trouble, because I will do the work most of the time. But at work, what I've learned is that most people really want to talk about themselves. So if you can get them to talking about themselves, then it's easier for me to keep my boundaries. And so my rule when it comes to boundaries in the workplace is, don't ask questions that you don't want to answer. Okay. So if you don't want to talk about your spouse and the kids, then don't ask those questions about someone's spouse and their kids.
Right, because they're going to turn around, you're going to ask them, and then they say, what about you? And you're like, well, I didn't want to talk about it.
It's a boomerang. It's a boomerang. If you don't want to talk about your vacation, then don't ask about a vacation. Or now the only way you can get invited into those conversations without an expectation that you're going to be asked those, if they start talking about them. So if they show up and they're like, I just came from, especially if you're leading a team, and your team, they're excited because they've just taken this big vacation. You just agreed to let them off work for 3 weeks and they want to talk about it. You have to definitely do the obvious. But with work, if I didn't bring it up, I talk about my family all the time. But if I didn't bring up, there are just certain things I didn't bring it up. And if I didn't bring it up, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to figure out a way to navigate that. So I think with work, those boundaries, it's just reading the room, and being good enough with whatever your job is before you can create other boundaries. For example, some people have boundaries with who they can speak to and talk to at work. That's not a boundary of mine. But I will say I did have a boundary of certain conversations. I had a group of people that I trusted that I could have certain conversations with at work, or they'd have employment resource groups where you could have certain conversations that you wouldn't necessarily have with other folks. Some people can also, some people's boundaries could also hurt them. Like, I always had a goal to know at least 2 layers up from my boss. And I mean know them to where they knew my name, because these are the people that hopefully, if you have a good boss, your boss is talking to you to these folks. They need to know you by name, so that if there's something that doesn't make sense, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt because they know you by name. So when it comes to work, first things first, do the work. And if there was a boundary to stretch, it would be just casual water cooler type conversation about a sport, something of that nature. But otherwise, just read the room and follow the lead. So that's kind of how I did it.
Yeah. With work, we talked about this before, like there's boundaries. I set boundaries with respect to social media and who I let follow me. Or, there are certain times when I feel like boundaries are very important, because I don't believe in bringing your whole self to work. I believe in being your authentic self at work, but everything does not need to be brought to work. Nope. Like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to disguise this, but there is there are people that I work with, and I know way too much about their personal life, and it has nothing to do with our work. So it's like, I don't want to know that.
Yep.
I don't.
Yep.
I care about your well-being. I care about the well-being of your family.
Correct.
But I don't want to know the details of your personal life. It's just not appropriate.
Yep.
And it can sometimes get in the way of what we are trying to do when you constantly are telling me all of your business.
Yep.
It just it's not helpful. So I set boundaries, and I had a supervisor one time who did not respect boundaries, like showing up at my house.
Oh,
yes. Making inappropriate comments about my husband And I just had to say, after that, I'm like, no, we not,
Yeah.
you don't know. No.
Yeah.
So boundaries are super important.
And even if you lead a team, always try to think through the next step. Like, okay, I'm leading this team, and you connect with certain folks on your teams, but you have to have this appearance of impropriety, right?
Yeah.
This, at least an appearance of impropriety, because I really did try to be fair. Now, people are not the same. So being fair is not treating everybody the same, but being fair is, it's kind of, it when you see it anyway. But my whole thing is, eventually you may do something that I have to address. And I don't want what you have perceived to be a friendship to get in the way of me doing my job that I'm getting paid to do and entrusted to do, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's the same with your kids. You like, I'm not your little friend at work too.
Yes.
I'm not your little friend.
Correct.
We are friendly. We are collegial. We can tee-hee and ta-ha when it's time to do business, but at a certain point, you need to respect that there is a boundary there. And it's not friendship.
Correct.
Because as you said, it can get in the way of you making very clear-eyed decisions.
Correct. And the other boundaries that I think about, the other category, if you will, I'd say would be personal. And when I think about personal, I kind of break it into friendships and family because of how I'm wired. If you're my friend, you probably are my family. Like, I don't have a lot of loose friends at this point in my life, like just people that are just kind of just tagging along, because as I explained this, I've said this twice now this week, but for me, I'm a person that feels, and I said it 3 times because we talked about it. I'm a person that really, really feels. I have a high sensitivity and cognizance to how other people feel, to where if you're sad and you're just down in the dumps, you would think that I experience what you experience. Like, it's really hard for me not to feel what my friends feel, depending on, especially if it's a sad emotion. So the thing is it's probably one of my biggest strengths, but it's also one of my largest vulnerabilities, right? So when it comes to boundaries in relationships, friendships, if you will, I've not been as good at those. And so just trying to develop those now and realizing that boundaries are for you. They're not for the other person. They are solely for you to protect what you think you need to protect, or to even protect them. And they may not even know it. So I have just various boundaries about, like, when it comes to friends, like what we do when it's just us, and what we do when it's a group or when it's couples, how we operate, on vacations or on trips, and how we coordinate or interact with other friends. And I think those boundaries have to be put into place so that it's almost setting expectations, so that if everybody knows and are clear about what those expectations are, nobody gets hurt. And it, again, just always reminding yourself that the boundaries that I set with you may not be the same boundaries I set with other friends, but they are there for a reason that I have. Like, and if that boundary becomes an issue, then we discuss it, and it's like, oh, well, no, you don't have to do that unless you want to, or you don't have to do that. And I think that's healthy. So when we're just talking about friendships and those boundaries, and mindful with friendships and the boundaries of friendships, some of the boundaries create themselves. Like, when a friend gets married, like, I remember one of my dear friends to this day, I mean, we were thick as thieves. I mean, we were kicking it. We've always lived within miles of each other. And then one day she got married, right? So that naturally changed our friendship, and our boundaries changed. And then I have a friend that, and all the people I'm talking about, we're still very good friends now. One of my dear friends, thick and thieves also, and even to this day to some degree. And then I had to relocate to Georgia. So obviously that naturally changed our boundaries. And then you have people that you dated, And when you've dated someone and you're no longer dating, the boundaries have to change.
They do.
And so I've not always been good with boundaries, but I'm definitely trying to get better. Even realizing that the boundaries that you set, there are consequences from them, right? So I have a boundary, family boundaries. So a lot of people you hear me talk about my mom and dad all the time. Poor things. One of my friends said that they need an agent because I'm talking about them way too much. But I've set boundaries. You don't hear me speak a lot about my brother, but I have a brother. He is a wordsmith. I mean, he's brilliant. He's very good with vocabulary. He's a really, really good artist. But with our personalities, we are not good for each other for long periods of time. And we haven't been good for each other for a long time. And the interesting thing is, we've lived in the same house. We grew up together. He's actually lived with me before. And when the things are good, when they're good, they are great. I mean, when they're good, they're great. But when they're bad, they're so bad that I don't want to risk the good for the fear of the bad. Yeah. So our personalities don't mesh to where we can kind of coexist often in the same space. When we do that, it's infrequent. But when we do it, it kind of works, but we need time between that. Like we need breaks, good breaks in between that. And that is a boundary for me. And if my parents like the boundary, good for them. If they don't, too bad, because that is a boundary that I put in place for my own well-being and mental health, right? But here's the thing, the consequence of things like that is that I have been reminded lately of people are just stroking out, like life is really happening around me right now. I had a death of a dear, and I'm not even going to say family friend, Miss Joanne Goins. And she just out of the blue, she passed. And I was at that funeral a couple of weeks ago. And I'm reminded of the fact that, okay, I put this boundary in with my brother. So what happens if something just happened to me and he learned of it, or something just happens to him and I learn of it? So the things with whatever boundaries we have is you have to recognize that your boundaries can lead to something that's not, that you didn't foresee.
Yeah.
And that's something you've got to own, and it can end up with you being left out of things that you didn't want to be left out of. So keeping those things in mind.
Libby just passed gas.
Libby. But anyway, keeping those things in mind when it comes to boundaries and knowing how, and I think just making sure some rules. Like when I think about boundaries with friends and family, do I bring value to you? Do you bring value to me? Do our good times outweigh our bad times? And I'm just being very objective. Like, am I laughing or am I not? Do you make me laugh? Okay. Do I make you laugh? Do we have good times? Do we jail? Like, those are some of the rules when it comes to just those boundaries in relationships with friends. And are you worth the invest for me to be all in? Because I only know one way to love.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm telling you, I'm diving from the top, what do those call them? Diving boards?
Yeah.
And I'm going all in to where when I dive in, I'm going to touch the bottom. So yeah, boundaries.
Yeah. And family boundaries are tough.
They are.
Because I find that, you're conditioned. When you're born into your family, there are modes of operation. There are expectations that are really put upon you that you didn't really even get to negotiate yourself because you just got here.
Yeah.
And so you grow up and you're like, I see everybody operating in this way, but this doesn't feel good to me. So how do I find my voice, to speak up about it? Like in my family, it has been sort of this thing that especially women do, which is talk about the women in their lives' weight and how they look.
Oh, like weight shaming.
Yeah. And I, like when I was 5 years old, one of my mom's first cousins told me I was fat. Like, how do you do? And she was a grown woman. And so, there are times when, like, my mom has said something. She's never called me fat or anything, but she may, like, one time I remember I had this outfit on for my anniversary, and we had dropped the kids off for her to babysit, and I had like just a little piece of my stomach out, and she was like, "Oh, girl," and I felt really good about myself too, and so then she was like, "Oh, girl, look at you with your belly out. You a vice president. You don't need to be going out." And it just like dropped me down a notch. And so I've kind of started to set this boundary, like the way I look is not really up for your comment.
Nope.
And then if I hear, like, there are certain times when, something might have been said about like my niece, and I'm like, well, she looks how she wants to look, like, let's just take people's looks off the table. So that's just one example of just like how sometimes you just have to say, like, okay, I'm not going to be up for discussion in that way. And I will say, when you're raising kids, you have to be respectful of their boundaries. Like recently, and I'm totally violating this boundary right now by even sharing this story, but sorry, Donovan. He had done something and he got in trouble for something. And because I think I showed you the video when he got.
Oh, yes. You
okay.
did.
So we were at Thanksgiving and I showed the video to my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law and some other people, and he was there, and he was like, why would you show them that? And so he like went and cried. Yep. And so I went and found him and I was like, Donovan, I am very sorry. And he was like, that was embarrassing. And he's 7 years old. And so I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I did not want to embarrass you. I thought it was funny, but I understand that, that was a situation that was not funny to you, and I'm sorry. And so I was like, I won't do it again.
It was funny though.
So it was funny. Yes, it was funny. So anyway, fast forward to my nephew was here a few weeks ago, and I was telling him that Donovan had done something. I was telling him a story about Donovan not doing his homework or not doing his classwork. And when we asked him why, he said, because he didn't feel like it. And now what did he say that for? Because we went off on him. Anyway. So Donovan came in and he said, I told you I don't like when you talk about me to other people. That hurt my feelings. And I said, you know what? You're right. I won't do it. And so that's his boundary.
But I will say that's a little different. I understand the first one more so than, because it may be your boundary, but I do think people who are involved in his life, what you don't want, they should have some awareness why. And I'll give you an example. If I was going to have a big day yesterday with Gabby and Desmond, and I had to go to a funeral. I didn't have to. I went to a funeral, and so that kind of blew that up. Mm-hmm. But had they had a week where they were mouthy to their mother or father, didn't do their homework, I need to know that, I feel, because these are my resources, and you don't get to treat from Auntie Tamara if you're doing those types of things. So I do think respecting a kid's boundaries are important, but I don't think it's carte blanche where they can just say, talking about, I don't know that that's the same.
I agree. I don't think it's exactly the same, but I do respect him voicing what makes him uncomfortable.
I love that.
And I'm glad that he felt comfortable enough to tell me. And to the best of my ability, even though I'm ignoring it right now, I want to respect that, because I remember when I would be upstairs hearing my mama talking about me on the phone downstairs, telling, she did this and she said this. And I'm like, dang, that's my business. So
it's not though when it becomes public.
I mean, it's not, but
I get it.
But you know what I'm saying? So I was like, well, I appreciate that he kind of set that boundary with me. Like, now I probably will still talk about it, but just not in front of him.
Because my thought is, what kid wants anybody to share anything about, like, what person wants anybody to share any, so that.
But a lot of sometimes you're sharing it because it's funny. Yeah. But then other times you're sharing it because you like need advice. Yeah. There are reasons why I might be sharing something he's going through. Yeah. And so, like I said, it's just, but I'm just glad that he felt comfortable enough to tell me is the point.
And you were good enough to listen. So
yeah.
So boundaries.
Yeah. Boundaries. Okay. So we've talked a lot. So we're going to go to this Will Be the Judge segment. So her name is Catherine. And she says she's in her late 30s, and over the past year or two, I've noticed that I've grown apart from a few longtime friends. We used to be in constant group chats, brunches, girl trips, but now they rarely check in. I do most of the texting, and even when we hang out, the energy feels off. I don't wish them harm or anything. I still care about them, but I just think we're in different places. And I'm wondering, is it okay to quietly step back from friendships that no longer feed you, or am I being cold?
Catherine, this is Catherine, right? I mean, again, I think the seasons, I had a conversation with one of my dear friends this week, and friendships are work. They are really hard work. And Catherine, you sound like a Capricorn. Like if you're doing everything and no one is pouring back into you and there's nothing that's reciprocal, then that friendship left you well before this note you sent us. It's hard. It's a hard fact. It's a hard truth. But if you're the only one organizing things, if you're the only one reaching out, if you're always last, if no one can, if they're not inviting you to do things, or when you ask them to do things, they don't know until they hear about something else, then I think you have to recognize and own the fact that that friendship could very well be over and could have been over a long time ago. You may not be interpreting it the right way. That season has passed, or those friends just can't be what you need them to be. And what I've learned over the last couple months is that a good friend is a good friend, but not all friends are great friends.
That's true.
And I have a whole lot of good friends. I don't have a lot of great friends. And just processing unrealistic expectations. Someone dear to me said, the only thing you can get from corn is corn. So
What they say, can't expect chicken salad out of chicken.
She's cussing, y'all. But my point is that unrealistic expectations, some people just can't, they're not that for anybody in their life. Like, that's just not how they're wired. So it's hard. It is very hard. If it's worth working for, you'll work for it. And if it's not, then it's just going to be some tough nights, but you will get through.
Yeah, I've had a situation where I have let a friendship die.
Yeah.
And my decision was because I felt like that friend had shown me over time that they really weren't in it for me as their friend. They were in it for other things. And that was my perception. It may not be true, but that's how that friend made me feel. And so I set a boundary, and I don't regret that it happened. I think that I made a choice to choose me and how I wanted to feel, and that was okay. And if you do let a friendship, and I mean, I can't say it's like not dead, but it's just like I let them choose how they wanted to be in my life. Like, once I stopped the effort, then, and we both stopped the effort, then that was the choice that, like, okay, I guess that's how we wanted it, because neither one of us put in anything else into it. And so I don't feel bad about it, and I have peace about it. And I think I know that if I needed her, she would be there for me, and and vice versa. Like, I don't think the door is like slam shut where we're never, like, we might see each other and never talk. And so I think that it's okay if you let the friendships go, as long as there doesn't have to be bad blood, is what I'm saying.
Agreed.
It just has to be a recognition of the way things were is not working anymore. And it doesn't have to continue to be the way things were. It can be something new, and that's okay. So whatever you decide, again, you have to honor yourself in the process, because if you feel like you're in a relationship that's not reciprocating anything, it's going to feel like you're being used, and there's nothing worse than that. You know, like, you don't want any friendships where you're feeling like the only thing anyone is getting out of it is on your back. And so I would just say, you don't even have to say anything. Because if you pull back and they don't even realize that you pulled back,
Yeah.
they're not even your friends.
Yeah.
You're their friend.
And another thing, when you were talking, I thought about it because I've been that friend that has totally let a friendship die. And unfortunately for me, and I can think of a couple people, I had a dear friend named Molly Gentry, had a dear friend Amy, but I remember those specific because I was going through some sort of huge trauma, and I was going through a traumatic event, and my reaction at that time I had different coping, and these are friends from college, but at that time I had different coping mechanisms, and I didn't have the words, and I didn't have the response. I didn't have the assistance to help me cope with the trauma. So I end up withdrawing. So keep in mind that, and they were close enough friends for me to share that with, even though I didn't. So keep in mind that those are things that I have to live with, right? But
Yeah.
I could find these folks, rekindle it. But my point is people can be going through things, even though they trust you. The trauma is so big that they can't even figure out the words to respond. I even think about, frankly, just this process with Libby. Like, I don't know why it's so traumatic for me, but I feel like it's about to get even more so traumatic, at the end. But it definitely makes me more distant. So you also have to process those things, but that still doesn't answer your question. You still have to deal with you and focus on you. So
Yeah. And if you don't want to lose them as your friend, you can.
Olivia's sick. This is awful. It smells awful. Anyway,
If you don't want to lose them as your friend, though, you can have a conversation with
Yep.
them about how they're making you feel. Like, you can do this one of two ways. You can try to salvage what it is by being honest and candid. And then you can also just test and see what happens if you pull back. And, there may be pros and cons of each approach.
yep. Agreed.
So.
Agreed. So, Catherine? Good luck to you.
Good luck. It's
but now
hard. Friendships are hard.
they're hard work, but they're worth it.
They're
It's
worth
like a relationship.
Yeah.
Danelle, I think it's time for
Yes.
Against My Better Judgment section. So go ahead. What'd you do?
Child, against my better judgment, I told my son about a trip we were going to weeks in advance. And that child has worried me to death. Woo! We are going to visit my brother.
You act like this is your first child for the first time. You should know this stuff by now.
Okay, so this is why I told him. His birthday was a few weeks ago. Yep. And I told him, I was like, okay, this year we're not doing, you can either have a party or you can take a trip. Because parties are expensive and trips are expensive.
Here's my question. Were y'all taking that trip anyway?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. I had to think about that. No, we were not.
Okay.
So he chose to take a trip because he loves to travel.
Smart.
And so I was like, okay. So he wanted to take it on his birthday though. So I was like, we can't do that because it just didn't align. So I looked up some flights and I was like, well, okay, we can make this work. And so I told him on his birthday, I was like, look, I'm sorry, mommy and daddy didn't get you a toy for your birthday. And he was like, why not? And I was like, well, we got you a trip instead. And he just passed out at the seat. My mom was like, you should have recorded that.
Oh, that's
and I was
he's
like,
extra too.
He is. I was like, okay, we're gonna go to visit Dash, who is my brother's youngest son. And so he was like so excited. And so, child, why did I do that? Every day. Okay, so we're going on the 18th. Okay, so what are we gonna do? Like, I was literally backing out the garage to come here to record. He was like, okay, so when you get back, how many days is it to the 18th? And what are we gonna do that day?
It's a good day for him to learn the calendar.
Like, why? I really,
you should have got that a little $5 toy, and then have that trip be a surprise.
I tell you what, it's gonna be a long time before I do this again because I'm gonna have to talk about it every day. Shannon doesn't ask. Shannon, you can tell. Like I told Shannon's going on the trip too, and he's not said another single thing about it since I told him.
He doesn't want to get on that plane.
But Donovan, every day, what are we doing? Okay, what's the plan? What are we gonna do when we get there? Okay, what are we gonna do the 19th, and what are we gonna do the 20th? Like which is really my fault because I know him and I know how his brain works because mine works pretty similarly.
Nope.
So I should have known he was going to be this way.
Well, that's
okay. But I wanted him to be surprised about his trip, but he could have been surprised
in another. Yeah.
So
whatever. Sum it up. What are your takeaways from today?
I should have set a boundary in terms of what I was going to tell my child about this trip. That's a hard boundary. But boundaries are for you, is what you said. You need to be honoring yourself and how things, people, situations make you feel. Choose yourself. And it's not being selfish to choose yourself. Like having boundaries doesn't mean you're like pushing people out and not sharing yourself and who you are. It's just sharing who you are on your terms. And that's okay. So that's my takeaway.
And I think that boundaries allow for efficient work in a relationship or friendship, professional, personal, however you look at it. And, it's that saying of, I think it's The Incredibles, if everybody's important, then nobody's important. So I think, boundaries are responsible. Yeah. So boundaries are responsible. So, set yours.
Yeah, set yours. Okay, so if you want us to weigh in on your situation, please send us an email at please send us an email at againstmybetterjudgmentpod@gmail.com. What was I thinking? Okay, and then also hit us up on Facebook and Instagram at Against My Better Judgment Pod.
All right, and keep those 5 stars coming because we will remain 5-star chicks.
Yes,
y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.